Lots of fantastic games in this group and lots of players.
Indeed, but it's time to go back to where we all know and love. We're back onto World's Edge. Not to say we don't know and love Storm Point at this point. I guess it's been around for a little while and has been, I think, a pretty fun map to watch and play. But World's Edge, the tried and true, really, isn't it, at this point? And a lot of teams going to be jumping back into comfort territory.
Okay, team spreading across the map now. I think they've sort of sorted this out a little bit better. World's Edge, of course, you know, it's been a long time that these players have had to work out their play styles, you know, fight for supremacy, work out where they want to drop and who can go where. Moist Esports, as you can see, that's how you know, Elfish. That's how you know that they're the premier team in this region now, because who's taken over Lava Siphon from Dark Zero but Moist Esports?
Yep, exactly. I mean, that's something that we sort of touched on Storm Point as well. They were dropping in the center of the map there, exactly where Reignite used to, or Dark Zero. Now, it is interesting, just touching on Lava Siphon, that we do have the duo of MDY here hanging around as well. You can see QQ and Yuling rather, just hanging around and maybe hoovering up some of that loot that Moist Esports would have liked to have taken, but doesn't seem to have been a particular problem for them. Over into Trials, you know and love it.
Yeah, I do. Like, it's actually been a little while since I've landed at Trials personally, and just hearing that noise started up, man, I just got these like nostalgia chills. Oh, it's so good to be back with ALGS.
Yeah. I mean, obviously this is the team that used to drop here as well in previous seasons, so not much has really changed. The org has changed, obviously, but the team still more than happy to take this position, and Cyajin God is going to be the one to work on the Trials himself. They do obviously like to loot a bit in Skyhook as well, which is what's occurring at the moment. The other team there is Hermagerd, but I think, you know, that is an area of the map that generally you're going to see teams sort of have a bit of a gentleman's handshake and say, yep, you get half of Skyhook, we get half of Skyhook and Trials. That's all good.
Yeah, well, it's like there are some regions actually where you do see three teams, and you get like one team Skyhook East, one team Skyhook West, and one team who purely plays from Trials. But in most circumstances, the team who gets Trials will pick up Skyhook West as well. So Valiant, you can see, very quick rotation from them. They are almost all the way into Overlook now, and it looked like 505 were potentially thinking about running into them, but no, they've just decided to take the sort of the large building, of course, running around with Watson. They're going to get that fortified up nice and soon. Valiant, do they want to take some of those buildings themselves? Do they want to play from the tower, which, you know, can be a little bit risky. You definitely can take a lot of sniper fire and burn meds if you're up there sometimes. Moist also quickly in. They're going to have a beacon, but they don't have the crypto to use it that long. Actually, one quick change I also want to touch on, Elfish, here is that if you don't have a crypto right now, a lot of these teams aren't getting later game zone info, because without the Gibraltar, even if you're sitting on a beacon late in the game, you cannot afford to put yourself in that position and take the scan most of the time.
Yep, oh, that's a very good point. I think at least in this case for the Overlook Circle, maybe you could get away with it with a Newcastle Shield.
Or maybe.
Might be thinking about that. I mean, the zone's pulling in that direction. You would have to go out into the ring to take a bit of damage there and get the zone info, but maybe it would be worth it. We'll see. Have to kind of keep a little bit of an eye on that, but obviously this is a very, very hard Eastern shift, so not too good for those teams that were over in Skyhook and Trials that we were talking about. EXA as well, out of staging, only just now starting to leave. They've got a fair way to go, but a lot of teams have actually already made this rotation in. Generally speaking, you're going to be seeing a lot of teams get early info off of those survey beacons for at least the first two phases. And even if you're not getting the info from those beacons, you can kind of see sometimes teams flying through the air on those, you know, skyward dives, or you can see teams rotating their way past and make a bit of an informed guess that, like, if one or two teams are heading in whatever direction, maybe the zone's pulling in that direction and they've got the info. Even if we don't, we could sort of make a bit of an educated guess that the zone might be going that way. So a lot of teams getting that info through early. And obviously most of them rotating pretty early on in the piece. Northside Esports just going to set themselves up in these train carts. You know, we've seen teams win from this position before, but it definitely isn't, I think, the place to be necessarily.
Yeah, like considering it's low ground, it's probably one of the better places I've seen to hold in the game where, you know, you don't necessarily have height. And I think when we're seeing, you know, this Watson meta as well, these train cars do become even harder to take. That said, you know, last season it would have been a caustic as well, right? So, you know, maybe not a huge change in terms of, you know, how teams are able to hold those enclosed positions. Nice little shot there from our beautiful observers. You can see Dewa holding up top here, and then below them that was, of course, Sinky B.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely seen teams win from that position. I just don't know that it's the first team there that wins from that position. Do you know what I mean? It seems to be a spot that gets crashed a lot, and normally it's like the third or fourth team that actually takes control of it that might then go on to win the game from there. Either way, besides the point, we've still got a lot of game yet to play. And we have a lot of teams still yet to touch on. They were United, you know, setting themselves up. It's a bit of a looser position here. There's not amazing amounts of cover. Actually, SRY, they've been a consistent team so far, but this could actually be the end of their run of consistency. If they go down right here, they've already definitely lost a player. Get that res off. Surviving for now.
Oh, no. Yas has been completely removed, so yeah, that'll be a little bit tougher for these guys. Oh, man, they got the turbocharged devotion as well. I'd be feeling sad about that, personally.
All right, well. Still fairly slow play. I mean, this is, I think, probably what we're going to get for the majority of this season. Unless the meta really shakes up too much. Doesn't seem to make too much of a difference whether we're on Storm Point or on World's Edge. You're going to be getting the Valkyrie-Watson combo for the majority of teams. Funnily enough, even the duos.
Yeah.
And obviously that promotes the slower gameplay style.
Before it might have been Gibby and Valk, something like that. But yeah, they do seem to be the backbone. EXO sticking on that Bangalore pick, even here in World's Edge. Just a little point of difference between them and everyone else.
This could be a problem for MDY. They're a duo, and the EMP has just completely crushed their hold. Really clean take from Golden Sage.
Yeah, you can see Northside Esports, actually, they're looking for this. They do get out of their train car and into the one that's just below Golden Sage as they hear those shots ring out, but they can't find the angles. Golden Sage looting from safety, and as you said, it was a clean fight, so they didn't really even give them time to make something of that opening.
Yeah, indeed. So, a couple of teams down already. Nothing too untoward occurring just yet. Moist Esports still hanging out toward Overlook. They are pretty much the easternmost team. By the way, they did actually go and get that circle info that we were talking about. And they are aware that it's going to once again pull back out toward the east. So they're more than happy to stay locked up here. Even though this spot isn't inside of ring number 4, they won't have too far to go.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to tell, hard to make this read actually after Circle 4 though. I mean, World's Edge is not quite as predictable as Storm Point. So despite the circle sort of hard shifting to the east there a couple of times in a row now, after this, I think there is a chance it sort of ping-pongs around a little bit. It could be the rocks. It could be down at those train cars that we saw before. It could be even as far over as a team like Golden Sage in that caravan that we got some vision of earlier. So this is actually a hard one to play, and as we noted, not many of these teams are going to be getting that info. It's pretty much only going to be those crypto teams, right? And if I have a look around now, that's GQ, that are still in. Emmanuel are playing with the Crypto, and then we had a third team, right? Oh yeah, Golden Sage as well. So yeah, a couple of those Chinese teams there, as well as Emmanuel.
Yeah, everyone has a little bit of a different view of the game and how they want to be playing it out. So you can see that second ring pool, obviously, as we said, goes very, very far out toward the east. Little vision of that. EXO were the team that was pretty much the westernmost drop from the southern side of the map. Obviously, teams up towards Skyhook were another question altogether. And that would be Truth, who have made their way quite far through the north, come down from Climatizer. But they're both still having to play edge pretty much because this has been a really long rotate for both of those two teams. And it obviously will continue to be as the zone moves further and further away from them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. East again. And look at Moist. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Moving out over Overlook to get that info again and again and again. They know that they really only have to cover off one side with that shield because everyone else is west of them. So they can get that info. And they'll know where that next ring is going.
Good little theory crafting there from you, Elfish. You're correct. Using that Newcastle shield in place of the Gibraltar protective dome there to grab that info. And yeah, look, I guess it's kind of like the most likely, I suppose, you would expect is that the continued hard shift here. But as I said, I wouldn't be banking on that if I was any of these teams. But you've got to make a choice. You've got to make a choice one way or the other.
I think if I'm in this game, I'm probably hedging my bets into one of the buildings nearby to Valiant at the moment. Moist have obviously moved their way into a spot that was kind of occupied by, I think SRY was occupying this building that Moist is in now. They've obviously moved on. So a lot of teams now starting to get a bit of an idea, a bit of a read as to where they need to be going. Truth have lost a player on that most recent rotation. They probably won't have to move again. They can hold on to this position for a little while longer. They'll be right on the edge of the zone, but there might be just enough cover behind this rock face that they can actually use.
Yeah, probably won't get the res off. Valiant, unfortunately, is sitting on top of that respawn beacon. I've got to say, that respawn beacon probably gets used almost more than any other. I think in pro games when you're bringing people back in, but that's when you don't have a circle shifting towards Overlook and you can kind of get some space to yourself to use that to bring a player back in.
Well, Golden Sage, they've put themselves in an interesting position because they are like almost the gatekeepers of this western side of the zone. I'm not sure that's the role they'd like to be filling as a duo. A lot of teams going to have to go past them, through them maybe. Mobius just cancelled for that Phoenix hit. A little bit annoying. But we'll get it done okay.
Certainly got it out for that pylon down in the middle.
Well,
Scout
not
coming
a big deal,
out.
though.
I mean, it's not. It's not a huge deal. You know what is a huge deal? How good the Scout is this season, man. I think that gun is just insane, and it is crazy to me that they buffed the double tap on it once we get to the Season 15 patch for ALGS, because I already thought it was one of the best guns in the game with the changes. It's almost like they bought it out of the care package and and almost didn't touch it, and now that they're buffing it again, man, I am really scared for when I start hearing some light ammo pinging towards me.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I've never been good with tap or burst weapons. So, probably not going to be too good for me, but you can see Empty being able to put it to good use. 100 crack onto someone.
And he's got the Rampart option as the Rampart version of the gun as well.
Moist set up pretty comfortably. Right up the top of this tower. I mean, there's no one really that's going to be able to get high ground on them. So they actually, if they keep their heads down, should be able to just wait out the game. EXO's been eliminated again. It's been a very tough day for EXO. It's just not coming together.
Let's go here.
Yeah, it feels like they've been putting themselves in some risky spots, sort of taking early fights and then getting third-partied a lot. As we've noted, these games have been very slow, right? And it's maybe there's something they're not used to, because obviously in times past you could take these fights early on and you wouldn't be punished for them as much. And it feels like today you really are getting punished for taking fights when you're not either extremely clean or extremely separated from the rest of the lobby.
Little bird's eye view of what's going on. But I think for me, obviously Golden's Age going down there, not a huge surprise given the fact that they are just a duo. We're kind of looking at Moist Esports to probably pop off from this position. Valiant as well, having already set themselves up fairly central in the zone. They've been really good today. Those are probably the two teams that I'm really keeping an eye on. I mean, you can see how busy it is just starting to get. 14 teams still alive, late in the game. Really not a lot of room to work with.
No, not a lot of room, and that's why Daewar find themselves on top of this building. They just skyward dived in from a southern position, and they were taking a couple of shots from Moist. They had to get onto this side. You can see there's a Watson below them that's just being a little pest and continuously setting up these perimeter fences. Of course, if you've got your pylon set up, it means your fences will come up faster, so you can really just kind of spam them like that and waste the ammo of the other teams. But hopefully they've got enough that that's not too much of an issue. It's a bit of an issue for Zugu Play, because he's alone right now. His teammates unfortunately not able to join him in this later stage in the game, but he's got a Kraber, so you never know. You never know what can happen when that gun is in play.
Yeah, might be able to do a bit of a pop-off moment, but tough considering Akuloni Noob has been spotted there. I think he'd be in an interesting spot. It's a good spot for now. They're under a bit of pressure, I think, from the Boogie Boarders, who are just north of them, a little bit further down the hill, but to the northern side of the map. They're going to have to move their way in, and as soon as they do, they're going to open themselves up to shots coming through from Moist up on that tower. So keep their heads down as long as they possibly can.
All right, well, these are the 11 squads left in the game, or at least a good stack of them here. As it actually moved quite south after after continuing east. So we've actually gone back down into those buildings, and teams that were there right from the start, like SRY, are doing pretty well. Though that said, they did lose a member, and they're the ones who's getting their fences sniped out from Daewar.
Is he firing off a few shots in the direction of Pricey? Couple landing. Can't see this being a fun scenario for Boogie Boarders to make this rotation in, because they're probably the team that has the hardest rotation to make. They don't have their Valkyrie available. So they look like they want to go through the northern side, which maybe is not a bad shout. Better the enemy that you don't know than maybe the enemy that you do know, considering it will be very tough to get past Stinky B. They will come in behind Truth.
Yeah, this is good. I think their options here are good, because if they can catch these two teams fighting at the same time, Valiant have just taken out Truth Esports. They're taking damage from thermite grenades and all this. And if Boogie Boarders can get in on the back of it, they're lobbing grenades in. Arcstar's going in. If some of those find their mark, they may actually have a chance here to do some damage in a 2v3 Rackage. Racky certainly getting a lot of damage done as Valiant have to really bunker down here. And Boogie Boarders, they've actually taken the space above them. So that was an incredibly opportune time for them to push in.
Yeah, I mean, end of the day, that has worked out for Boogie Boarders, but Valiant, they don't want to let that one go. They are more than happy to take the fight in onto Boogie Boarders. Pricey already down, and so too will Raki follow. Decisive move from Valiant, and they are looking like a really good team at the moment, aren't they? Valiant just running through teams.
Oh, incredibly impressed by them.
And a stick there.
Yeah, look, the other thing that really struck me about that fight, how much it looked like we were back in the Bloodhound meta, right? Where you couldn't be a rat. Where if you had two players on a team, and another team knows it, they will full send it at you, because they can't, otherwise you can't be sure if it's three players in there sometimes, and you don't necessarily, you want to take that fight, take that risk. But that time they know there's two, and they're just like, whatever, we're going to win this fight. We will absolutely full send you immediately before this becomes a problem from us, and they get that house back to themselves.
Most definitely. Now there is another building with a couple of tenants, I suppose, is maybe a word for it. Daewar United have the roof. SRY, which is actually just a duo at the moment, they're sitting on the ground floor, and Daewar United in the middle. Actually, I suppose the bottom floor and SRY are on the ground underneath the building is probably a better way of putting it. So 3 teams in that area of the map. Big contest now coming in onto that caravan. We'll go back over to Daewoo United, though, who are just firing a few pop shots over at Moist Esports. This is it. Sinky B fighting for control of that caravan. That alternator pylon is doing a lot of work, but is it enough? Chris trying to get that revive and isn't quite able to do so. Will fall.
They even had the gold knockdown shield to help the res there with the Newcastle. Obviously going to chuck that across to him. Sad that he couldn't get it up there. Daewoo, they've lost birthday boy Kissand here, unfortunately, because they were in a fantastic spot getting so many kills. They were picking up on the top of that building, but Easy Flash and Bastion do have a chance here to still do bulk damage to the rest of these teams. Moist Esports are still sitting up on the top of that tower, by the way. That's pretty much where the circle is pulling, and they will have the high ground advantage over all of these teams for at least another 10 or 15 seconds.
I think they may eventually have to come off, but will they have to come off before their opponents move out of cover is going to be the big question mark, and I'm actually not sure that they do need to do that. They're about as central as you're going to get when it comes to cover, so I think they're really happy with the position that they do have. I mean, 5 bullets in that Peacekeeper for empty is really not a whole lot to play with now, only 4. Surely he'd be using the Scout at this point if he had anything left in that one, so I think they're really running out of ammo. They will have been firing a lot off, and they do decide it's the go time. You've got Jaro on one side, Waltzy on the other side of the high ground, and 505 down on the floor right now.
Flash.
Just completely keeping themselves out of this fight. They were united. Caused a real number to Moist, and it's actually 505. But they're going to walk away with the win.
I mean, they were kind of the winners by default there, Elfish, because Easy Flash popped off. Moist were like, okay, we've got a duo. We'll just go over and finish these guys, and then, you know, we can deal with 505 however it happens. They pop around the corner, and Easy Flash is hip-firing people with the Scout. I think he managed to take out 2 of the Moist members there.